She thought dinner would be uncomfortable, but not life-changing. He just wanted to introduce the girl he loved. But when his mother caught a glimpse of the necklace hanging around her guest's neck, she turned pale. Her hand trembled. And everything changed. Because that necklace didn't just sparkle. It held a family secret buried for over 20 years. And this young woman, standing in marble entryway, was connected to it in a way no one could have imagined. Hey everyone, welcome back! Or if it's your first time here, welcome to the place where real-life twists hit harder than fiction. Today's story. It's a powerful blend of love, legacy, and a secret that refuses to stay hidden. One necklace, one memory, and a mother's past is staring her straight in the face. Before we begin, tap that like button if you believe every secret eventually comes to light. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss stories that shock, move, and stay with you. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if your past walked right through your front door? And of course, share this video with someone who loves a good story with a twist. Stick around until the end.
The moment Elaine Prescott saw the girl's necklace, her entire world stopped. 1 second, she was lifting her wine glass. The next, she was staring, frozen, silent, at the gold pendant, hanging just below Ava's collarbone. A delicate charm shaped like a crescent, moon and etched with a single initial L. 16-year-old Logan Prescott beamed beside her, proudly introducing the girl he had brought home. Mom, Dad, this is Ava. Ava offered a soft smile, her voice steady despite the tension clinging to the room. It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Prescott. Elaine didn't answer. Her gaze didn't move from the necklace. Thomas Prescott, seated at the head of the table, cleared his throat. And how did you two meet? At the Lincoln shelter, Logan replied quickly. She teaches coding to younger kids. That's where I volunteer. Amazing, Thomas murmured, forcing a smile. Elaine finally blinked and set her glass down, untouched. Excuse me, she said, rising slowly. Her voice had gone cold, almost brittle. I'll be back in a moment. She turned and walked out of the room, stiffly, one hand reaching up not for composure, but for her own necklace, hidden beneath her blouse. Something was very, very wrong. Elaine Prescott didn't stop until she reached the master. Sweet. She shut the door, locked it, and opened the antique jewelry box on her dresser with trembling hands. Buried beneath pearls and diamonds was a necklace nearly identical to the one Ava wore, a gold crescent moon etched with the same single letter L. She hadn't seen that symbol in almost 2 decades. In the dining room, the atmosphere had thinned, but only just. Ava sipped water quietly while Logan rambled to fill the silence. She's into AI and robotics, too, Mom. I mean, she's applying to MIT. Thomas raised an eyebrow. Impressive. Ava nodded. I've always loved solving puzzles. Thomas gave a small, polite smile, but his eyes flickered again to her necklace. That's a beautiful piece. Family heirloom. Ava looked down. Actually, no, I don't know where it came from. You don't? I grew up in foster care. The necklace was the only thing found with me as a baby. The room went still. Thomas exchanged a glance with the empty doorway where Elaine had disappeared. Ava didn't notice she was still staring down at the gold charm, completely unaware it had just opened a door no one in that house ever wanted to walk through again. Elaine stood at the bathroom sink, running cold water over her wrists, her breath shaky and uneven. She hadn't thought about that night in years. The rain, the screaming, the decision they swore never to speak of again. And now a girl shows up in her home wearing that necklace. She gripped the counter, fighting to stay upright. Downstairs, Logan was completely unaware. He was too busy watching Ava laugh softly, nervously as she recounted a story about one of her coding students accidentally triggering a robot to spin in circles. It wouldn't stop, she said with a grin. We had to unplug the whole panel. Thomas chuckled politely, but his mind was spinning. He had seen that necklace before in a hospital wrapped in a blood-soaked blanket. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the hall. Elaine returned, calm and cold as porcelain. She took her seat with a tight smile. Sorry, just needed to check a message. Everything okay? Logan asked. Of course, she said, but then she turned to Ava and asked flatly, have you ever tried to trace your birth parents? Ava's face dropped. She hesitated. I used to, she whispered, but I stopped when someone warned me to let it go. There was a silence so thick Logan could feel it, pressing against his ribs. Someone warned you? He repeated, leaning in. Ava nodded. Yeah, it was about 3 years ago. I filed a request for non-identifying records. The next week, I got a typed note in the mail. No return address, just one sentence. What did it say? Thomas asked, his voice low. Ava glanced between them. It said, stop digging. Some graves are sealed. For a reason. Elaine's knuckles turned white around her wine glass. And, you just stopped? She asked, trying to sound casual. I was 15. It scared me. I figured maybe my parents were dangerous or powerful, so I let it go. Ava looked away, embarrassed. I just told myself the past didn't matter. Logan reached for her hand under the table. It matters, he said. Thomas cleared his throat. You said the necklace came with you as a baby. Do you still have any of the paperwork? From the system? Ava blinked. Only a copy. Why? Would you be willing to let us see it? He asked too quickly. Elaine shot him a sharp look. But Ava just shrugged. Sure, it's at my apartment. Elaine's voice cracked a room in half. I want to see it tonight. An hour later, Logan pulled up outside Ava's tiny apartment in a quiet part of Asheville, North Carolina. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. From penthouse ceilings to creaky floorboards, Elaine and Thomas had insisted on coming. Elaine said she wanted clarity. Thomas hadn't said anything at all. Ava apologized for the mess, even though her place was spotless, books stacked neatly, a small potted plant on the windowsill, and an old laptop charging on a makeshift desk made from stacked crates. It's in here, she said, retrieving a slim manila folder from a fireproof box under her bed. It's not much, just intake, notes, and a faded medical report. She handed it to Elaine, who opened it with trembling fingers. The top page was a hospital report. Female infant, African American, approximate 5 days, found abandoned near Golden Creek Shelter, wearing crescent moon necklace. No injuries, no witnesses. Elaine's breath caught. Beneath it was a social worker's note, dated 2007. Infant appeared healthy. Anonymous. Caller reported location. Callers. Voice female, mid-30s. Possibly educated. Refused to give a name, said, she's safer without me. Thomas stepped back as if struck. Elaine sat down slowly on the edge of Ava's couch. She wasn't blinking. She was whispering. Oh my God, it was you? Logan looked between them, confused. Wait, what do you mean, Mom? What's going on? Elaine didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the folder in her lap as if it had dragged a ghost out of her chest. Ava stood frozen, one hand gripping the side of her desk. You recognize this, don't you? Thomas asked, quietly. He wasn't looking at Ava. He was staring at his wife. Elaine finally spoke, her voice low and cracking. That necklace, it's not just similar. It's the same. I had one just like it Maid years ago, before she stopped. Before what? Logan asked now, rising, panic rising in his throat. Thomas's voice was barely a whisper. Before the baby. Ava's lips parted. Stunned. What baby? Elaine stood up. Too fast. This isn't the time. This isn't the place. Ava stepped back, her voice shaking. I think I have the right to know. Elaine turned to her son. Logan, she may be your sister. Silence. Heavy, unforgiving. No, Ava whispered, stepping back like she'd been slapped. That's not possible. But Elaine wasn't denying it. Thomas sat down, burying his face in his hands. Logan just stood there, everything tilting out from under him. No, Logan. Said again, louder this time. No, that can't be right. That's insane. Ava had stepped into the corner of the room, arms crossed tight over her chest, like she was holding herself together by force. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Elaine stayed silent, but her face said everything. She looked like she had aged. A decade in 5 minutes. I was 20, she said finally. I was in college. I wasn't married yet. I wasn't ready. My parents threatened to disown me if I kept a baby, so I made the worst decision of my life. She looked at Ava. Now, they told me you were adopted. I didn't even know where you ended up, but I couldn't bear the thought of you having nothing, so I left the necklace. That was all I had. Ava's voice was icy. You abandoned me. I hated myself every day for it. Logan turned to his mother, voice hollow, and you never told me. Thomas finally spoke, his voice brittle. I found out 2 years after we married. She told me in tears. I promised never to bring it up again. But she's not your daughter. Elaine whispered. She's mine, but not ours. And then Thomas asked what no one else dared. Are you sure? The next morning was quiet. Ava didn't sleep. She sat on her bed, knees drawn to her chest, clutching the necklace she once thought was just a pretty charm. Her world had flipped in one evening. She didn't know who to trust herself, least of all. A knock at her door startled her. It was Logan, alone. He looked like he hadn't slept. Either he handed her a small envelope, a private DNA lab. They'll come to you. No records, no publicity, no drama. Ava stared at the envelope but didn't take it. You still think I might be your sister? She asked softly. I don't know what to think, he admitted, but I know I want the truth. Whatever it is. She took the envelope finally. Back at the Prescott penthouse, Elaine sat at the dining table, silent. Thomas paced, phone in hand. She hates me, Elaine whispered. I saw it in her eyes. She's allowed to, Thomas replied. But that doesn't mean this ends in hate. A few hours later, the DNA technician came and went. 3 days passed. Then a single email arrived in Ava's inbox. She opened it slowly, heart pounding. 99.9% probability of a direct maternal relationship to Elaine Prescott. And below that, no paternal match to Thomas Prescott. Elaine stood alone on the rooftop garden of Prescott Tower, clutching the original necklace she'd hidden for nearly 2 decades. The DNA results had confirmed what she already knew deep down, but the lack of Thomas's paternity changed everything. I failed her twice, she whispered, once when I gave her away and again when I met her and saw nothing but shame. Behind her, Ava appeared quietly. You wanted to meet? Ava said gently. So I came. Elaine turned. Her voice cracked. Thank you. They sat on a bench beneath the glass awning, the city humming quietly below. I wasn't going to come, Ava admitted. But I remembered what you asked me the first night about the necklace. Ava nodded, and you asked if I'd ever look for my parents. I used to want answers. Now I think I just want peace. Elaine reached into her coat pocket and handed Ava a small velvet box. Inside was a twin necklace. I had two made, she said, one for me and one for the baby I thought I'd never see again. Ava stared at it, then looked at Elaine. I don't need it to know who I am, she whispered, but I'll wear it to remember who you chose to become. 3 months later, the Prescott Foundation quietly announced a new scholarship initiative for young women in foster care pursuing tech education. It was named after no family member. It was called the Ava Lane Initiative. At the official press launch, Elaine stood beside Ava, not as a benefactor, but as a mother trying to show up the way she never had before. Logan spoke at the podium. She's not my sister by blood, he said, but I'd be proud if she was. The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. Later that day, in a quiet corner of the Foundation's new mentorship wing, Ava helped a shy 12-year-old girl troubleshoot a broken circuit. Elaine watched from the hallway, her eyes wet but steady. Thomas stood beside her. She's not your mistake, he said. She is your miracle. Elaine didn't answer. She didn't need to. Ava wore both necklaces now, hers, and the one Elaine had saved, not as symbols of pain, but as a fusion of past and future. She hadn't just found a family. She had redefined one. Sometimes the most powerful connections aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we choose to fight for. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Share it with someone who believes healing is possible. Subscribe for more stories. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next.